I was just about to leave for another sleepless night at the studio when my phone pinged. One new message. Gabriella. 5 years since she walked out of my life on our wedding day, and now a text saying she would be at my wedding to Jessica this weekend, uninvited. The woman who left me standing alone at the altar now wanted to witness me marrying someone else. My hands trembled as memories I had buried came flooding back. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have ever had someone from your past try to disrupt your present happiness. The first time I met Gabriella was at the Boston Modern Art Gallery opening 7 years ago. I was 32, making a name for myself as an architect, and she was the new curator everyone was talking about. I still remember how she looked that night in a simple black dress, her dark hair cascading down her shoulders, discussing the intersection of architecture and modern art, with such passion that I was immediately drawn to her. "You must be Phoenix Walker," she said, extending her hand. "Your redesign of the Harrison Building downtown is breathtaking." I was surprised she knew my work. We ended up talking until the gallery closed, then continued at a nearby cafe until sunrise. We discussed art, architecture, our dreams, and somehow the hours flew by like minutes. I had never connected with someone on such a deep level before. My best friend Adam warned me after meeting her at dinner the following week. "Something about her seems off, Phoenix. She has this look in her eyes. Just be careful." But I brushed off his concerns. When you are falling in love, red flags just look like flags. Our relationship progressed quickly. Gabriella was spontaneous, passionate, and made every day feel like an adventure. For my birthday, she surprised me with a trip to Paris where we spent days exploring the city, visiting architectural landmarks, and losing ourselves in art museums. It was there in a small antique shop near Montmartre that I found the vintage diamond ring I knew would one day be her engagement ring. I started designing our dream house, spending countless hours sketching plans for a modern cliffside home that combined both our aesthetics. I invested significant money buying the perfect plot of land overlooking the ocean, something that stretched my finances thin, but I believed it was an investment in our future. There were warning signs I chose to ignore. Gabriella would sometimes disappear for days without explanation, not answering calls or texts. Then she would reappear as if nothing had happened, dismissing my concerns with a casual "I needed space to think" or "I was busy with gallery preparations." I accepted these excuses because I was too in love to question them deeply. When she was with me, she was fully present, and those moments made the disappearances seem insignificant. After a year together, I proposed at the Opera House, where we had our first official date. I had arranged for the pianist to play her favorite piece, as I got down on one knee in the empty theater after hours. When she said yes, tears streaming down her face, I felt like the luckiest man alive. My parents were concerned about the speed of our relationship. My mother took me aside during their first visit to meet Gabriella. "Phoenix, sweetheart, are you sure about this? Marriage is a big commitment, and you have only known her for a year." "Mom, when you know," I replied confidently. "Gabriella is the one." Despite their reservations, my family supported my decision. We began planning what Gabriella called the wedding of the century. 300 guests, at an exclusive coastal venue, custom-designed invitations, a 5-tier cake, and a designer dress being made specially in Milan. The costs kept mounting, but I took on extra projects and even borrowed money to make sure Gabriella had everything she wanted. Looking back, I should have recognized how Gabriella kept changing her mind about wedding details, causing additional expenses and stress. One week she wanted an intimate ceremony, the next, an extravagant celebration. The florist quit after Gabriella changed the entire floral concept for the third time 2 weeks before the wedding. But I made excuses for her, telling myself it was normal pre-wedding jitters, that she just wanted everything to be perfect. The night before our wedding, we stayed separately as per tradition. Our last phone call ended with Gabriella saying, "I cannot wait to be your wife, Phoenix. Tomorrow will be the beginning of forever." I fell asleep that night filled with anticipation for what I thought would be the happiest day of my life. I woke up on my wedding day feeling surprisingly calm. The anxiety that had built up during months of planning had transformed into a quiet certainty. Today I would marry the woman I loved. My best man Adam helped me into my custom-tailored suit, adjusting my boutonniere with a supportive smile. "Today is the day, man," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Are you ready?" "More ready than I have ever been for anything," I replied truthfully. At 9:30 a.m., I received a text from Gabriella. "My love, I cannot wait to see you at the altar. My heart is yours forever." Those words gave me a surge of confidence as I stood at the front of the church at 11 o'clock, watching as 300 of our friends, family members, and colleagues filled the pews. The string quartet played softly. The flowers adorned every surface, just as Gabriella had meticulously planned, and sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns across the aisle she would soon walk down. 11:30 came and went. The string quartet cycled through their repertoire twice. Guests began shifting uncomfortably in their seats, checking their watches, and whispering among themselves. I maintained my smile, making excuses to the pastor about Boston traffic and how brides are traditionally late. At noon, a full hour after the ceremony was scheduled to begin, I saw Gabriella's maid of honor, Sophia, rushing into the church, her face pale and her makeup streaked with tears. My heart dropped to my stomach before she even reached me. "Phoenix," she said, her voice breaking, "Gabriella is gone. She left this for you." She pressed a cream-colored envelope into my hand. With trembling fingers, I opened it there in front of the altar, where we were supposed to exchange vows. The handwritten note was brief. "I cannot do this. I need my freedom. Please do not try to find me." The silence in the church was deafening, as everyone realized what was happening. 300 pairs of eyes watched me process my abandonment in real time. My father stood and came to my side. My mother began quietly weeping. Adam took the microphone and announced that the wedding would not be taking place, asking guests to please respect my privacy during this difficult time. I remember very little of what followed. Somehow I found myself standing outside the church as guests filed past me with pitying looks and awkward condolences. "So sorry. If you need anything." These things happen for a reason. Each well-meaning comment felt like another knife twisting in my chest. That night alone, in what should have been our honeymoon suite, I sat fully clothed on the edge of the bed, unable to cry, unable to think, unable to comprehend how the future I had so carefully planned had vanished in an instant. A week passed in a blur of cancellation, calls, returning gifts, and avoiding concerned messages. Then I saw it while mindlessly scrolling through social media, trying to numb my pain, a photo of Gabriella in Positano, Italy, smiling broadly with her arm around a tall, bearded man I had never seen before. The caption read, "New beginnings in the most beautiful place, with the most beautiful soul." The timestamp showed it had been posted the day after our wedding was supposed to take place, the day after she had left me standing alone at the altar. Further investigation revealed the truth. Anthony Romano, a wealthy Italian artist, whose work Gabriella had featured in her gallery several times, comments on older posts showed a pattern, subtle flirtations, dating back months before our wedding. She had been planning this, plotting her escape, while I was selecting wedding cakes and writing my vows. The financial reality of the canceled wedding hit me hard. Non-refundable deposits, loans I had taken out, the dream house property I had purchased that now stood empty and unbuilt. My reputation suffered professionally as well, clients giving me space during what they assumed was a difficult personal time, leading to lost opportunities and contracts. But the worst part was the nightmares. Night after night I would dream of standing at that altar, watching the church doors, waiting for a bride who never came. In some versions, the guests would start laughing at me. In others, they transformed into monstrous figures, pointing and jeering. I would wake up drenched in sweat, reaching for someone who was no longer there. I started drinking too much, missing deadlines, avoiding friends. Adam would come by my apartment, finding me unshowered, surrounded by empty takeout containers and bottles, staring blankly at architectural plans I could no longer focus on. "This is not you, Phoenix," he said one day after forcibly opening my curtains, letting sunlight into my apartment for the first time in weeks. You need help, man. This is not just heartbreak anymore. This is something deeper. I wanted to argue, but I had no energy left. I knew he was right. Somewhere along the way, I had lost myself. The confident, creative architect who took pride in his work had been replaced by a hollow shell of a man who questioned his worth, who wondered what fundamental flaw in him had made him unlovable, unworthy of commitment. Why was I not enough? I asked Adam, my voice cracking. What is wrong with me, that she could just leave? Nothing is wrong with you, Adam said firmly. But you need to talk to someone professional about this. Please, for yourself, for everyone who cares about you. This cannot be your ending. Adam drove me to my first therapy session. I sat in Dr. Winter's office feeling like an imposter. Surely my problems were not serious enough to warrant professional help. I had been left at the altar, yes, but people went through worse things every day. So, Phoenix Doctor, Winters said, her voice calm and non-judgmental. Tell me what brings you here today. I started speaking and found I could not stop. The words poured out of me like a dam, breaking all the pain and humiliation and anger I had been suppressing. How I blamed myself. How I could not understand what had happened. How I feared I would never trust anyone again. What you are experiencing is a form of trauma, Dr. Winters explained. Being abandoned at such a vulnerable public moment has triggered a profound sense of rejection and shame. But Gabriella's actions reflect on her character, not your worth. Week after week, I returned to that office. Sometimes I talked. Sometimes I sat in silence. Sometimes I raged against Gabriella, against myself, against a world that could allow such pain. Dr. Winters never rushed me, never judged me. She simply created a space where I could begin to heal. 6 months into therapy, I joined a support group for people who had experienced similar betrayals. Sitting in a circle with others who understood my specific pain was unexpectedly comforting. There was Martin, left by his wife of 12 years for his best friend. Lucia, whose fiancé disappeared 2 days before their wedding, taking their savings with him. Thomas, whose partner came out as gay the morning of their ceremony. Their stories helped me see that what had happened to me, while painful, was not unique, and more importantly, not my fault. Slowly, I began to reclaim parts of myself. I returned to the gym. I reconnected with friends I had been avoiding. I took on a small architectural project, finding joy in creation again. The unbuilt dream house property remained a painful reminder, so I made a decision. Instead of the home I had designed for Gabriella and me, I would create something completely different. A community center for at-risk youth, focused on introducing them to architecture, design, and art as potential career paths. Transforming what had been a symbol of my heartbreak into something that could help others gave me a sense of purpose I had been missing. It was at a sustainable architecture conference, where I was presenting the community center design, that I met Jessica. She approached me after my presentation with thoughtful questions about the environmental impact of the building materials. As an environmental engineer, she offered perspectives I had not considered. Jessica was nothing like Gabriella. Where Gabriella had been dramatic and intense, Jessica was steady and grounded. Where Gabriella demanded attention, Jessica gave attention to details others missed. Her smile was not the kind that stopped a room, but the kind that made you feel truly seen. We exchanged business cards ostensibly to discuss potential collaboration on the community center. When she emailed me detailed suggestions for improving the building's energy efficiency, I was impressed by her expertise and invited her for coffee to discuss further. That coffee meeting lasted 3 hours, yet we barely touched on architecture or engineering. Instead, we discovered shared interests in hiking, documentary films, and cooking. Her laugh was genuine. Her passion for her work was evident. For the first time since Gabriella, I felt a flicker of interest, but it terrified me. I should be honest with you, I said as we were leaving the cafe. I am not in a good place for dating. I had a pretty traumatic experience a while back, and I am still working through it. Jessica nodded. I appreciate your honesty. How about we just be friends for now? No pressure, no expectations. That friendship became my safe harbor. We would meet for coffee, go hiking on weekends, or attend lectures together. Slowly, without the pressure of romantic expectations, I found myself looking forward to seeing her, texting her funny observations throughout my day, wanting to share my thoughts with her. 6 months into our friendship, after a day spent volunteering at a habitat restoration project covered in dirt and exhausted, Jessica looked at me with mud streaked across her cheek and said, "I really like spending time with you, Phoenix." The simple honesty of her statement broke something open in me. That night I told her everything about Gabriella, the wedding that never happened, the breakdown that followed, and my ongoing journey to trust again. "I understand if that changes things," I said, staring at my hands. "It is a lot of baggage." Jessica reached across the table and took my hand. "Everyone has a past, Phoenix. What matters to me is who you are now, how you have faced this challenge, and the person you are becoming because of it." Our relationship evolved naturally after that night. No grand gestures, no whirlwind romance, just a steady building of trust and connection. Jessica never pressured me when certain relationship milestones triggered my anxiety. When meeting her parents made me panic, remembering the last time I had been integrated into someone's family, she simply held my hand and whispered, "One step at a time. We have no timeline but our own." After 2 years together, we moved into a small house with a garden that Jessica loved and a home office where I could work on designs. Our life together was not flashy or dramatic, but it was real and solid and good. I designed her engagement ring myself, working with a local jeweler to create something that combined Jessica's love of nature with architectural elements. It was nothing like the antique ring I had chosen for Gabriella. This ring was designed specifically for Jessica, with her preferences in mind, not a romantic notion of what an engagement ring should be. I proposed on a random Tuesday evening at home. No elaborate setup, no audience, just the two of us cooking dinner together. When she said yes, there were no tears or dramatic declarations, just a quiet certainty that felt more profound than any grand emotional display. We planned a small wedding, just 50 of our closest friends and family, at a local botanical garden. No extravagance, no excessive debt, just a meaningful celebration of our commitment. Everything was coming together perfectly, until a week before the ceremony when my phone lit up with a name I never expected to see again. "I heard you are getting married. I will be there. We need to talk." Gabriella's message hit me like a physical blow. 5 years of therapy, of rebuilding, of learning to trust again, and with one text, she threatened to unravel everything. My hands shook as I stared at the screen memories flooding back of the last time I had planned a wedding, of the humiliation and pain that followed. I did not respond, but I also did not tell Jessica. I told myself I was protecting her, that I would handle this situation without adding stress to her wedding preparations. In reality, I was afraid. Afraid of how Jessica would react, afraid that this ghost from my past would somehow taint what we had built together. For 3 days, I carried the secret like a weight on my chest, checking my phone constantly for more messages, jumping whenever it rang. Jessica noticed something was wrong. "You have been distracted lately," she said one night, as we were reviewing final wedding details. "Is everything okay?" "Just work. Stress." I lied, hating myself for the deception. That night, while I was in the shower, my phone lit up with another message from Gabriella. Jessica saw it. When I came out of the bathroom, she was sitting on the edge of our bed, my phone in her hand, her face pale. "Who is Gabriella, and why is she insisting on coming to our wedding?" she asked, her voice tight with hurt. The truth spilled out of me then about the messages, about my fear of telling her, about my worry that somehow Gabriella would ruin what should be the happiest day of our lives. Jessica listened silently, then set the phone down carefully between us. "What hurts me is not that your ex contacted you. What hurts is that you did not trust me enough to tell me." Her words cut deeper than any anger could have. She was right. After everything we had been through together, after all the trust we had built, I had fallen back into old patterns at the first sign of trouble. "I think you need to meet with her," Jessica said finally. Not at our wedding. Before. You need closure, Phoenix. We both do. Are you sure? I asked, surprised by her suggestion. I trust you, she said simply. And I think you need to do this to fully close that chapter of your life. I arranged to meet Gabriella at a coffee shop downtown Neutral Territory, far from the home I shared with Jessica. When she walked in, I felt a strange detachment, as though I was watching a scene from someone else's life. She looked similar to my memories, yet somehow diminished. The magnetic presence that had once captivated me was muted now. Phoenix, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. You look good. What do you want, Gabriella? I asked, skipping the pleasantries. She sighed dramatically, the familiar gesture triggering an echo of the man. I used to be the one who would have tried to comfort her, to fix whatever was causing her distress. I made a terrible mistake, she said, reaching for my hand across the table. I pulled back before she could touch me. Leaving you was the worst decision of my life. Anthony was. It did not work out. Nothing has worked out since I left you. As she spoke, I realized she was telling me a practice story, one designed to elicit my sympathy. The gallery in Italy had failed. Anthony had left her for a younger artist. She had been moving from job to job, relationship to relationship, never finding stability. I want another chance, Phoenix, she said, tears welling in her eyes. When I heard you were getting married, I realized what I had thrown away. We were good together. We could be again. 5 years ago, those words might have broken me open. 2 years ago, they might have filled me with rage. Today, they simply washed over me, leaving nothing but clarity in their wake. Gabriella. I said gently, what we had was not real. It was intense and passionate, but it was not built on honesty or respect. I am truly sorry your life has not gone as planned, but I cannot help you with that. Her expression hardened. Is she really what you want? This boring environmental engineer with her practical shoes and sensible life? You are an artist, Phoenix. You need passion. You need me. I almost laughed at the transparency of her manipulation. What I need is what I have found with Jessica. Partnership, trust. A love that makes me more myself, not less. I will come to the wedding, she threatened, her voice taking on an edge I recognized from our worst arguments. I will tell everyone what really happened, how you drove me away with your neediness, your obsession with perfection. In that moment, I saw Gabriella clearly, for perhaps the first time. Not as the captivating, mysterious woman I had idealized, nor as the heartless villain who had destroyed me, but simply as a troubled person who used others to fill the emptiness within herself. No, you will not, I said with a calmness that surprised even me. You will not be at my wedding, Gabriella, not because I fear you or hate you, but because you have no place there. That chapter of my life is closed. I stood up, leaving my coffee mostly untouched. I forgive you for what happened. I hope you find what you are looking for. But it is not with me, and it never will be again. As I walked out of the cafe, I felt as though I was leaving behind more than just Gabriella. I was leaving behind the last remnants of the man who had stood alone at that altar, the man who had defined himself by that abandonment. With each step away from the cafe, my stride grew more confident, my shoulders lighter. When I got home, Jessica was waiting. How did it go? She asked, her eyes searching my face for signs of distress. I pulled her into my arms, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair. It went exactly as it needed to. She is from a different life, one I no longer want or need. Jessica held me tightly. Are you okay? More than okay, I said truthfully. I am free. 3 days later, I stood at the altar of the botanical garden, sunlight filtering through the glass ceiling, surrounded by the people who had supported me through my darkest times, and now shared in my joy. Adam stood beside me as my best man, his pride evident in his smile. When the music began and Jessica appeared at the end of the aisle, radiant in her simple gown, I felt no fear, no doubt, only absolute certainty. This time, when I spoke my vows, they were not grandiose promises of eternal passion, but honest commitments to partnership, respect, and choosing each other every day. Gabriella did not appear. Whether she had accepted my words at the cafe or simply lost interest in her dramatic plan, I would never know. What mattered was that as Jessica and I were pronounced husband and wife, the only ghosts present were the ones we had laid to rest together. Sometimes the worst moment of your life can be the catalyst for finding your truest path. Had Gabriella not left me at that altar 5 years ago, I might never have done the hard work of understanding myself, of learning what real love looks like, of becoming the kind of man who could build a healthy partnership. Jessica and I moved into our new home last month, a place we designed together that reflects both our needs and dreams. It is nothing like the fantasy house I had once sketched for Gabriella and me. It is better, more authentic, grounded in reality, rather than romantic illusion. When people ask me about my wedding disaster story, which still comes up occasionally, I no longer feel shame or anger. That experience shaped me, but it no longer defines me. I am not the man who was left at the altar. I am the man who rebuilt himself from that broken place into someone stronger and wiser. If there is one thing I have learned through all of this, it is that real love does not diminish you or demand constant proof. Real love gives you room to be authentically yourself while supporting you in becoming your best self. It is found in the quiet moments of understanding, in showing up day after day, in working through challenges together rather than running from them. Have you ever experienced a moment that seemed like an ending but turned out to be the beginning of something far better? Share your story in the comments below. And if this journey resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need to hear that their broken road can still lead to a beautiful destination. Thank you for listening. And remember that sometimes our deepest wounds become our greatest sources of wisdom.